Alright, now before we get into all the tools and what they do, I want to give you a basic idea of what an animation looks like. Most people screw this up royally. They think that you click File, New, and you're just going to open up this scene and you're going to start drawing and you're going to start using all these tools and making layers, and you're going to create a whole cartoon right here, 30 minutes of The Simpsons or something. Absolutely not. That is not how it works. You may click File, New, and then you actually create a set of eyeballs or a bunch of hand switch layers or something. And each time you create a body part, or like say a tree or a piece of a background for a cartoon, you're going to save it. You come up to File, Save As, and they're going to save it as a .anime file, an Anime Studio file. That saved file can then be imported into a much larger scene or into a character, and you do this until you're done. In other words, you're going to create these body parts and save them, and you're going to put them together eventually as one character, and you're going to change a few of them and put them all together as another character. And each time you finish a character, you save the character. And then to do your scene, you're going to import some trees and your house and stuff like that, and then your characters. And you're going to save that as an Anime Studio file. So each time you're just building up to these bigger and bigger and bigger Anime Studio files. And eventually you're going to have a complete scene that has your audio and everything else. Alright, let me show you what you can and can't do with the different tools. This is the Add Points tool, and this is what you would typically use to make a character. You would just add point after point after point after point. And then when you get done, the shape would fill itself in. It's pretty handy. The problem is, if you needed to just do a straight line, like let's say we wanted to make a stick figure character. We got a head, and then we got the body. We can't actually do that because if watch this, when I render it, you don't see the rest of this character. And the reason is these aren't actual lines right here. So instead, if I wanted to draw a stick figure character, I would come up here and click on the freehand tool. Make sure auto close is off. Well, we can turn auto close on. Make the head. Now turn auto close off and make the rest of the lines that we need. And as you'll see, if we do a render, Control R, the lines show up on this one. That's because the freehand tool will add the strokes that we need. The Add Points tool will not add strokes. The only thing you could do to get close would be to make a very, very thin square. And that would show up because of the outline. Alright, let's talk about the Add Points tool. The Add Points tool can be used to make simple shapes. Let me start with this auto close feature. If auto close is on, that means I can draw part of a shape and it will actually close it and fill it in with whatever color is selected off to my right. Boom. So the color that was selected was blue. The stroke color, and stroke is just the outline, stroke color was black, so that filled in. If it looks funny, it's all speckled. That's let me just click off screen here. That's what it would look like. Now I can change some of these things. Let me show you what I mean. Let me Control Z, Control Z. Alright. Let's say I didn't actually want it to fill in. I can turn off autofill. We'll leave the other things the same just to show you. So it's actually going to be hollow. Alright, let's say I turn on autofill but turn off auto stroke. I'll do the same thing. Auto close, close the loop, but
you'll see that there's no stroke around the outside. There's no black line. In fact, I'll render it, Control R, no black line. And you'll notice off to the right that stroke is unchecked. And if I check it, the stroke comes back. See the difference? Same thing with the fill. I could turn the fill. You get the idea. So you can play around with them. Let's say that let me delete this. Let's say that I turn off the auto close. I'll turn on the other things. That means that I can draw this little circle, and then when I get to the end, that's all that's going to happen. It's not going to close itself. And if I wanted to paint it, there's no painting it because there's no closed shape. You have to have a closed shape for it to be painted. And let's say I grab this and I'm going to try and close it in. Boom. There's still these little tiny holes in there that aren't going to close. Now the auto weld will actually let me go from point to point, and it will weld them in for me. And once the shape is welded shut, it fills in because our autofill was on. Alright, let's say the auto weld was not on. We'll leave auto close off. Make our shape. Alright, we're going to fill it in. So we find this point and go over this point, and you'll see, and it looks like there's absolutely no way that's not closed in, right? So if I click paint, I should be able to paint it, but I can't. And the reason I can't is because I never welded the points together. So even though I ran over it and the paths crossed, they intersected and closed the loop, I never welded them, so we have a problem. So here's what I can do to fix that. Alright. I'm going to draw part of a shape. Now if I want to weld them, what I can do is draw a little line. Now I use this, the Translate Points tool. It's one of the shortcuts you will learn. Now you have to pay real close attention. By the way, I'm zooming in just by rolling the middle mouse wheel. The other way to zoom in is down here. You can click on this, and you can zoom in by clicking and dragging to the right, zoom out by dragging to the left. But the normal way of doing it is just middle mouse wheel. Alright, so I find the very last point, bring it over till it's on top of that point, and then hit the space bar. And when I do, it'll make a snapping sound, and it will actually weld itself. Same thing here. I'll grab this one, move it over. Actually, I'll do this a little bit different. Oh, no, yeah, I will. Same thing. Drag it. When they overlap, I hit the space bar to seal them. Get used to that. The space bar is going to be used a lot. It's going to become your friend. All right, so as you can see, once those are finished, it filled itself. Let's say I did the same thing, but I forget what I was going to do. Okay, say I did the same thing. Come over here. I'll weld those points. I'm going to do the last ones, but I'm going to turn off this autofill. Space bar, I weld it, and you'll see it didn't fill itself. So now if I want to fill it, I've got two different options. I can use the paint bucket tool. So click the paint bucket tool, and it's going to paint it with whatever the fill color is. Excuse me. Okay, Control Z, I'll undo it. Here's the thing. If part of your object is off screen and I click fill, it's not going to fill. You have to have the entire object that you want to fill on screen before it will fill. Alright, let's talk about this tool, which is the Draw Shape tool. You click the Draw Shape tool and you've got your choice of square, or I should say rectangle, oval, triangle, star, arrow, squiggly thing. And then you've got autofill and auto stroke. These are going to work just like they did with the freehand tool. If you turn off autofill and make a square, squeak. Hold on. Let's undo that. Make it square. It's not going to fill with anything. Alright, but if I turn on autofill and make a square, it's going to automatically fill. Same thing if I'll turn off the auto stroke but leave on the fill, and then render it so you can see the three. Those are the differences. Okay, real basic. That's probably the easiest tool to use. And of course, at any time, you can change the colors of your shapes just by, you can either do that. Oops. Oh, of course, they're overlapping, so it's not going to work. I can separate them. Oh, I must have welded a point or something. Alright, I can do this and then fill it. The other way that I can fill a shape is with this Create Shape tool. We'll get into that in a little bit. Alright, the other way that we can select our paint colors, you can either click here, select it, click OK, or you can come down here and just click and choose what you want. If you left click, you're going to get the fill color. If you right click, you change the stroke color. Okay? Alright, so let's say I wanted to make a TV. I'm going to use this. We'll turn all these on. Oops. Oh, this is real poor. I'm not good with this. Make it gray. Alright, let's say we're going to make a TV, but we want to have a hole in the middle where the screen's going to be so that we can put something in there. Now we can't just make this transparent. See, we could actually change the gradient. That's what this does. If you change this, we could repaint this. I'll show you. If I move it off, it's actually completely transparent. If we were to move this, we'll make it partially transparent, and then I'll render it to show you. You can see. But the problem is that's not going to work. We can't just put a transparent layer on top of another layer and have it be see-through, because we're just going to see through this shape, sorry, not layers, but shape, and we're going to see this shape. So there's actually a whole other way to do this. So I'm going to select this and delete, and I'll show you. Alright, creating a shape with a hole in it. We're going to make our TV, but here's the difference. We're going to leave auto stroke on, and we're going to turn auto fill off. Okay. Now we create our inside layer. Now we need to actually create the shape. This is a little bit tricky. This takes a while to get used to. You're going to have to practice this, but we're going to come down here to this Create Shape tool. This will become your friend. You see when I click it, instantly it selects this shape. The other thing we can do, if we have two unfilled objects, is we can highlight, click and drag, highlight the whole thing, and what it does is it will want to fill this and leave this vacant. So we just hit spacebar and create our shape. That's all there is to it. So now we can stick anything we want in there. So let's say create a second layer, put it behind here. I'm going to make a star. Our star is behind, so when I render, you can see if I were actually going to put it inside the TV. This is a very poor TV, by the way. You'll see, but that's how it looks. Everything worked. Alright, let's talk about the Add Points tool right here. Now this tool is actually going to be your primary tool for making everything you want to make. It's not going to be the freehand tool. I mean, you can use the freehand tool, but the Add Points tool is so much better once you get used to it. You've got three different options for it up here. Sharp corners, autofill, and auto weld. Now you can change how sharp the corners are at any time, but if you leave it on, I can create a square just by going click and drag, drag, click and drag, click and drag. Now autofill is off, so what I have to, and auto weld is off, so I would have to do what? We already went over this, hit the space bar, okay, and that makes a solid shape. Now if I turn autofill on and I did the same thing, space bar, it's going to fill, right? We not only filled, we have the stroke on there too. Now let's say I want to go back and fill this. All I have to do is do the same thing we did to create the shape with the hole in it. We use our Create Shape tool. So we have our primary color set. Let's say we want to change it to red, make it stand out, and we'll change this to black. Alright. Create Shape, click and drag, make sure that we select all the points, and hit spacebar. And we just created our shape. That's the primary way of doing it. Now if you wanted to round out one of these corners, so right now let's say I hit the Translate Points tool and I drag a point. Let's say we want it to be more rounded. That's when we use this. This is our Curvature tool, and the shortcut is just the letter C on your keyboard. Now in Anime Studio it has a unique interface where I guess you could say it's unique. Anytime you want to use some of these special tools, you actually click and you drag to the right to increase, and you drag to the left to decrease. Just like with your zoom tool, you can click, drag to the right to zoom, drag to the left, zoom out. Same thing with this Curvature tool. We click, we drag to the left to make it more sharp. Of course, we already have sharp corners. And don't worry about these. You're not going to have to use these really. These are shortcuts. If we want to make it curved, we can either click the shortcut, or we can click and drag to get just the right amount of curvature that we're looking for. Okay. Alright, one more time. Let's say that I had a sheet that had some holes in it, like a kid's going to run around and play like he's a ghost. We'll pretend to make that. Alright, we got the auto stroke on, auto close is on, auto fill is off. That's the key. We're going to choose white as a color, and we'll choose maybe not black, but maybe like a gray for the outline, like a light-ish gray. Alright, let's say we got the sheet down here, it comes up, and we've got, looks like Pac-Man's enemy. Alright, but we got the two eye holes. Now I click the Create Shape. You can see I could actually select whatever shape I want. I could turn those into something, but if we want them to be holes and we want to stick somebody else behind here, we're going to highlight the whole thing and hit spacebar. Okay, and that's the shape we created. Just what we wanted. Alright, let's talk about the Hide Edge tool. Alright, let's say I create a shape. I'll use this so that you can get used to seeing how it works. Let's say it's just a basic square. I just hit spacebar to fill it, or to weld and fill it. Okay. Now rendered, this is what it looks like. I'm actually going to increase the line width. And to increase the line width, now I'm just selecting all the points that the lines are attached to, and I'm going to, right here, click the line width. And remember, we increase everything by clicking and dragging to the right. We decrease by clicking and dragging to the left. If I wanted to do individual points, let's say just the top ones, I could select just the top, click the tool, and then drag to the right, and just increase the top ones. And it's going to blend it with the bottom. But let's say I want to hide the bottom edge. I don't want this showing. I would click this, which is the Hide Edge tool, and then click the line, and it hides it. Now it kind of looks sloppy because our lines are so thick. But here's the other thing that most people don't know. You can actually click and drag over a line, and it saves your fingers a lot of clicking. So alright, now let's say we screwed up and we just actually want to delete an edge. we have a tool for that too, and that is right here. This is the Delete Edge tool. D, letter D is in dog, is the shortcut on your keyboard. Alright, now we can delete an edge just by clicking anywhere on that edge, whether it's the end or on the actual edge. Now, oops. If we want to keep deleting edges, again, just like the Hide Edge tool, we can click anywhere in the screen and just, oops, sorry, I switched tools. Delete edge. Click anywhere in the screen and just scroll over an edge. And just as fast as we can scroll over it, we'll delete it. When would that be handy? Let's say you were creating, oops, let's say you were creating some blades of grass. Alright, and you made way too many. You want to delete a bunch of them. You click the delete edge, and you can actually go through and clean up a bunch of them really fast. Alright, let's talk about the Scale Points tool. Let's say, I'm just going to create a few layers here. We'll have a star and a new vector layer. We'll make a square, and we'll make another one. Now 2 is enough. Scale Points tool, you can actually select. Here we have the star. Let's say we wanted to make the star wider. We can make it wider. We can make it bigger. We can make it taller. We can make whatever adjustments we want to make to it. You just click the layer, and it's not so easy to see with the square because it's right outside of it, but that's all you have to do. The other way of doing this, and we can't actually manipulate individual points, but with the layer, scale layer tool, we can scale a whole layer the same way. And everything about a layer actually rotates around this origin point, if you're wondering what this is. So with the star, here, I'll show you, this is the Translate Layer tool. We can actually translate the square over there. We can translate this layer here. This origin point, like I said, our scale origin, our scale layer is going to move around that. And if we want to change that, here's our origin. We just click. So now it's in about the center of the star. We can totally change the behavior. Alright, but the difference between these two, the scale layer and the scale points, is with the scale points, we can actually select certain points. So let's say we use our Select Points tool, and we select just those 3. We can then scale those very quickly. Alright, same thing. The rotate points. Let's say we select this whole star. We can do the rotate points and rotate it this way. Or we can select certain parts of the star, oops, and just rotate those. And to rotate, you just click and move, and it's going to rotate around the center of all the points that you selected. Okay? Alright, let's do a little practical application. Let's say we wanted to make a character like, I don't know, got a couple colors set here. I've got auto weld on, auto fill, auto stroke, auto close, and I just want to show you 1 or 2 practical things here. Now this is going to be SpongeBob has the easiest outline, and he's got a couple of characteristics I'm looking for to show you. Alright, we made the front. Now we need to add a side panel. We're not going to do it with this tool though. We're going to actually go over to the Add Points tool. And now we can start from one of these points, come over, and well, you know what? We'll give him a few of these little wiggle lines in there because he's not perfectly square, and then come back, and that's going to weld. But now we need to create a shape out of this. So we can come up here to create shape. We can select all those points and hit spacebar, and it's going to do just what we wanted. Alright, now the other thing he has are these little like holes all over them, and the holes don't have an outline. If you just, you know, check it out on the internet, look for a good picture of them. Holes don't have an outline, so what we're going to do is we'll use the freehand tool. We're turning on auto close. Auto fill is on, auto weld, doesn't matter. Auto stroke we'll turn off because we don't want the outline. We just want, actually we want this color there, or that kind of that color. So remember, we can either choose it in here or we can come down here and left click. But his holes are kind of like, I don't know, that color-ish. So by just doing this, we're not going to have the stroke outline. So if I render it, Control R, you can see it's a smooth look that doesn't have the lines around it. Alright, the only problem we have are these jagged edges. We don't want those to be jagged, we want them to be kind of wiggly, I guess. So we can use the Curvature tool, and now we can go and do each one individually, or we can use the Select Points tool and select them. Oops, I wanted to do this differently. Alright, let's say we had a bunch of points like this. Oops, I accidentally selected these points along with these. Alright, now there's two ways to fix this. One, I can hit Shift and click the individual ones to get rid of them. This is the same way to select many points. Let's see, we got a bunch of them that are close in here. That's why I don't like using the freehand tool, because sometimes you can get a lot of points real close together and you really don't need that many. So anyway, let me show you another way to select these. Let's deselect what we have. Alright, you got the Select Points tool. Now you can hit Control. See, normal operation, you make a square. But if you hit Control, you can actually wrangle up the points you're looking for. Okay, and we got just the points we're looking for. Now we can hit our Curvature tool, click and drag to the right, and we're going to make all those points more curvy. Okay, that's all I want to show you. Alright, let's talk about some of these other tools right now. Up here we have perspective points. If I click the perspective points and click in here, I'm just going to rotate the points that are selected right now. So let's say I want to do the whole drawing. I can select the whole thing, click perspective points, and I can actually move them around. Up, down, left, right. Same thing with the shear points. With the shear points, it's very similar, but it just gives them a different rotation. This is useful sometimes, but you probably won't use it that much. It comes in pretty handy when you're making a book or something like that. So, alright, now just like the shear points and perspective points, you may also have the shear layer and perspective layer. I don't think everybody has these. I think debut users, you probably don't have this bottom row or the magnet. And I don't think you have any of these either, but pro users, you may have them. But same thing, just like with the points, we can do it with a whole layer. It's the exact same thing, except that when you're doing it with a layer, everything rotates around this origin point. So if I do it like this, he's going to go way out there. If I move the origin out here and use the same tool, notice how it changes. Likewise, if I move the origin to the center of him, he's just going to spin around like a quarter. In fact, I'll give you a good example. Here, we'll make a... oops, that's not going to work because I've spun it. Okay, real quick, if you screw things up, you can use your orbit tool to see exactly how everything is. So here's our camera. This is what our camera is looking at. And you'll see the dead-on view of the camera against this. These are rotated a little bit out. So let me go back to the, you know, it's been a while. Reset view. All right. Go back to the, actually, file new. No. We'll create a little, all right, let's say I want to make a coin. You notice when I use this tool, things get a little lopsided. Control Z. If you want to get a perfect circle or a perfect square or triangle or whatever, hit Shift before you click and drag. Alright, so let's say I had a coin. I don't know if you can see the origin point. Right now the origin is out here. I use this tool. It's going to rotate way around. Alright, now Control Z, go back to normal. But if I put the origin in the center, it's going to be as if I flicked it with my finger and spun it. It's just going to rotate right around that. Alright, now same thing with this. This one is also affected by the origin. So just remember that if you get into a pinch and you need to move something, be aware of where your origin is. Alright, I've created my two little coin shapes. Now let's say you wanted to make this one look like this one, but you don't want to try to figure out what colors. You can always click in here and figure out what the colors are, and then cut and paste into this object's things. But the quicker way is just to use this eyedropper tool. So you just click the eyedropper tool, and I could select this, and it's going to show me the fill color and the stroke color, or same thing with this, fill and stroke, and then I can come back to layer 1 with those chosen, create shape, spacebar, boom, I've got two circles that look the same. Same colors. Alright, let's talk about your camera controls real quick down here. The first one you see is the track camera. What this does is this lets you look up, down, left, and right with the camera. It's real easy to do when you're in 2D, but if you're a pro user and you've set up a 3D scene, as you move this around, you're actually going to see, like if these columns were in 3D, the front ones may actually move farther to the right or left than you want them to as you do this, and it can screw up your scene, so just be aware of that. But this will move your scene around, or move your camera so it looks like your scene's moving around. Alright, the next one is the zoom camera. And if you click in your scene, and you just scroll to the right, you can zoom in, scroll to the left, you can zoom. The next one is roll camera. This is what you would use if you had like a King Kong scene, where King Kong's on top of the Empire State Building and you've got an airplane coming in. If you were doing your scene as a view from the airplane, you would use the roll camera to actually create the idea that the plane was banking to the left or to the right. So that's what the roll camera does. And then the last one is the pan or tilt. And for the most part, you're probably not going to use this, but it will pan or tilt your camera.